Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching India Tonight with me, Sumita Karir, and tensions between India and Pakistan continue to soar and flare up. In fact, amidst a volatile backdrop, the Ministry of Home Affairs has directed multiple states to conduct comprehensive civil defense mock drills on May the 7th, aiming to bolster preparedness against potential hostile threats. Now, these drills are a critical component of the nation's strategy to safeguard its citizens amidst rising regional tensions. Meanwhile, earlier in the day, Russian President Vladimir Putin dialed Prime Minister Narendra Modi and strongly condemned the terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam, where in fact 25 tourists and a Kashmiri were shot dead in cold blood. In fact, the Kremlin also said that President Putin has accepted an invitation from Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit. In fact, the two leaders emphasized that relations between Russia and India were not affected by external influence and are developing dynamically. So that's an important statement coming out of the Kremlin. Meanwhile, New Delhi, as you'd know, has received global support from Britain, France, US, Israel, Italy, Russia, all of them superpowers. Those superpowers of the world have reiterated India's position. Meanwhile, hectic government activity continues in the national capital. Earlier today, Defence Secretary Rajesh Kumar Singh called on the Prime Minister to brief him. Earlier, IAF, Navy and Army chiefs also held separate meetings with the Prime Minister. India's NSA also met with the Prime Minister as well, and helping us map all of these developments and what do these mean for the conflict between India and Pakistan is a power-packed panel. We're now joined by retired Lieutenant General V.K. Chaturvedi. He's a defence expert. Dr. Ranjan Kumar, Associate Professor at the School of International Studies, JNU, and KP Fabian, former ambassador. Let me come to you first, Mr. Fabian. Now, there are continuous skirmishes happening along the LOC. Both nations have heightened their military readiness, and international airlines are rerouting flights to avoid the tense airspace. And now India asking states to conduct mock drills. How do you really read into these developments, and how significant and serious are these developments?
These are very serious developments, and so far as messaging is concerned, communication is concerned, and in this kind of situation, that those communications become important. So the message that I'm getting from the government, government reports and the media reports, that India's action is imminent. So India is going to take an action. The time and the way is going to be, we don't really know. That has to be decided by the policymakers and the strategic committee which the government has formed. But yes, because of that, there is a lot of this has drawn a lot of attention from the international media, but also from the governments of the West, where different countries are responding differently. They know most of the countries and most of the media reports, if you follow, so they believe that India is going to take an action. Now, there is a difference between the Western media and the other media. The Western media is saying that if you follow Economist and a lot of other Western media, they are asking for the proof that India should provide the proof and take the action. This is very silly kind of argument which is coming from the Western media, simply because in this kind of incident, in this kind of issue, it's absolutely impossible to ask for the proof. Can I ask, if I had to kind of counter this kind of argument, I would have asked what kind of evidence was provided by United States.
We'll come to that point, Dr. Kumar.
Yeah.
We'll come to that point after a short while, but let me address the big news update. The big news update that we're getting of mock drills being conducted by states. And let me take that point across to our defense expert tonight, Mr. V.K. Chaturvedi. So at this point, do you rule out the possibility of a limited kinetic exercise?
No, Sumita, kinetic action is not ruled out. And in fact, to my way of thinking, it will be there. Because this time what Pakistan has done in Pahalgam is unacceptable. This is something which is to bring in the communal disharmony within the country. Also, to tell the world that nothing is normal in Kashmir. Also at the time when the Vice President of USA was here. So all these things are very, very serious issues. Pakistan is definitely involved in this total incident. their involvement, ISI involvement, whether the political leadership was involved, one is doubtful. One cannot say with total conviction, because in Pakistan, it's the army and the ISI which runs the show. I feel we need to respond at the time and place and in the mode that is of our choosing. That will definitely happen. There is a lot to do. These are measures which are being taken. These are civil defense measures. We have to be prepared because anything can happen. Pakistan may also retaliate, respond, and for that, we should be prepared to see that we do not land ourselves in a situation where we suffer some casualties. So these are those actions which the Home Ministry has asked us to carry out various drills and all. These were done in 65 also, 71 also. These are those measures, and these are the famous saying: the more you bleed in peace, the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. That is what it is. Though we should be prepared for the worst, but at the same time, I have no doubt that the kinetic action on Pakistan is coming. Where will it come? Only the leadership will know, and I don't want to comment much on that.
Right, and so I'd request you to hold on to that thought, and I'll come back to you on that point. But let me take our viewers through some of the measures that MHA has asked several states to conduct. So there's going to be operationalization of air raid warning sirens, training of civilians, provision of crash blackout measures, provision for early camouflaging of vital plants, updation of evacuation plan and its rehearsal, and several of these measures is what is what sources suggest that the MHA has told states. So let me come to you on that point, Ambassador Fabian. Do you anticipate escalation, which is going to be limited to a point? What are you anticipating and expecting, given our history with Pakistan in the past and the kind of wars that have played out?
I'm not in a position to predict anything. It is so complex, and we are sort of, in the region of ambiguity and surprises. The second point is that these mock drills which you mentioned, we had them way back in 1971. We had not had them earlier or thereafter. Now, the third thing is that, I expect, I'm not predicting, I expect some sort of military action. Now, the question is, what sort of military action? Broadly, there can be two types of military action.
Yes.
One is a surgical strike or a series of surgical strikes in the manner of Balakot or Balakot plus, meaning bigger and longer and all that. The other is, a war. Now, I do not expect India to start a war. But at the same time, if Pakistan goes on with violations of the LOC and there is no change in their behavior, it is possible for the two countries to stumble into a war. And we should realize that in Pakistan, there is a very insecure leadership. We know that the civilian leadership does not matter much. And as already pointed out, what happened at Pahalgam was something which the military decided. And so it is the army chief that decides. But even the army chief also finds himself not in a very secure position. So that is why I said, the leadership there is very insecure. And when the leadership is insecure, then actions can be very irrational and impulsive. So all this we have to take into account.
Right. Absolutely, Mr. Fabian, and thank you very much for your points on that topic. Of course, so two kinds of actions is something that you are anticipating, not really predicting. But let me come to Mr. Chaturvedi. How prepared do you think India is to sort of absorb any military escalation, and will it be able to deter an attack for a long period of time in case that happens as the worst case scenario?
We are very well prepared, extremely well prepared, and that's what the armed forces are supposed to be. They are to remain in a state of alert at all times, 24/7. As far as Pakistan taking some adventure into India, yes, possibility exists, but that will be very, very dangerous for its own self. Thereafter, there will be nothing that will be left of these people. India will retaliate in massive strength and with total kinetic. As far as the India taking the offensive, I totally agree with Ambassador Fabian that we will not, and it has not been done ever in the past also. So we will await, but remain alert. But kinetic action to give a lesson will definitely be there. It will be also Balakot Plus, I think, and where mode and in what time frame it is anybody's guess. Today, Pakistan is in a very, very bad shape. Their leadership, as has been brought out, is totally in shambles. I'm talking about the political leadership. Even within the army, there are dissensions. There are a lot of, because every chief there wants to remain permanently as a chief, and so many in the lineup, they suffer. So there is built, I'll say, some sort of sanguines are already on of people not in line with the present Asim Munir. Asim Munir may have got some backing from the civilians and some mullahs, but definitely doesn't enjoy the respect of the masses and the troops within their army. Even the army today is very widely spread.
Right.
They are spread in Balochistan, they are spread in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and even internally, they are not very stable. I do not think that they have the real punch to do anything much, but war is something which is unpredictable. Therefore, some desperate action can definitely be taken by them.
Absolutely. So you're reiterating what Mr. Fabian also stated, that, the leadership is quite insecure. They do not quite enjoy the support of the public, and hence we should be prepared and brace ourselves for any sort of a drastic action that could come in from Pakistan. Let me come to you, Dr. Kumar. Now, what other diplomatic actions and steps can India take across, economic and political and diplomatic fronts? We've already taken several of them, including, the Indus Water Treaty abeyance, also closing of the airspace, and of course, banning imports from Pakistan. But what more can India do to make Pakistan even more desperate? Because as of now, what you may have seen from Pakistan is that they're only resorting to tit-for-tat measures and even now knocking at the door of UNSC. What more can India do to further make it more desperate and, sort of in dire straits as it already is?
I think, you'll have to understand the supply line for, Sumita, thank you for having me here first. But yeah, let me say that there are few supply lines which are very important. And I'm not talking about the military supply line, but the kind of diplomatic support that Pakistan gets from some of the countries. One is, of course, China. So you have to put pressure on China that this is unacceptable. And we have trade with China. We have been trying to build up relations with China. And China would be happy to create some kind of, conflict in the region, because China wants to halt the economic development of India, and we should be certain about that. But at the same time, China is not willing to take the cost in case we escalate the cost with China. So that's one thing that we need to do. But Pakistan also gets support from, say Turkey, for instance. Pakistan gets support from some of the Islamic states in the form of what you call Organization of Islamic Countries. Officially, many of the Islamic countries, they will not directly, criticize India, but unofficially, there are channels of, support coming from those countries. And Iran's, say, foreign minister, for instance, he is visiting Islamabad. And there are a number of other countries which might be trying to, they're not in favor of war, I'll tell you, but at the same time, there is some connection which is religious in nature. So that has to, India has very good ties with Saudi Arabia. India has good ties with UAE. India has, of course, good ties with other countries in West Asia. And most important, in my view, would be isolate it further from United States, because US still supplies weapons to Pakistan, as you know, F-16, etc. And those aircrafts, they need to be operated. They need spare parts, etc. So, and this attack took place when J.D. Vance, J.D. Vance, the American leader, he was here. The vice president was here. So we can convince and we can bring America to closer to our requirements, which is that the policy of the West on Kashmir, that has to change, and we'll have to tell the Western leaders that enough is enough. We have been listening to a lot of hypocrisy from the West, but now the time has come. You have to align with the interest of India, and this is something totally unacceptable. Some of the media channels in the West, for instance, they're saying they're militants. They're going nuts. They don't realize that what kind of statement they're making, and they're asking for the proof. How many times the US gave the proof when it attacked Iraq? So though that kind of hypocrisy has to be fought with the West. But again, let me tell you, the Western countries, they do realize India's sentiment. They're very sensitive about the issue of Kashmir now. The things have changed. The way they used to treat Kashmir in the Cold War period, and that is no longer the case. France is willing to support India. UK will be careful, cautious, but at the same time, UK knows that the kind of interest it has with India in the long term. So has United States. So we need to cut support from the Western countries and also raise the issue in several multilateral organizations, including in this what you call United Nations, but also in, say, for instance, BRICS, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, etc. Although Shanghai Cooperation Organization does not deal with the bilateral issues, so how far India can mobilize the support, that remains a challenge. And of course, Russia. Let me tell you that Russia is an important issue in today's discussion. So Pakistan has also been trying to build bridges with Russia. And the reason being that, the kind of logic that Pakistani leadership is giving that, just 1 second, that since India is going closer to United States, so Pakistan is trying to convince Russia that we can also build relationship the way India is going with the other power. So, we have to counter that logic. And let me tell you that Russia is in support of India completely.
It is, and this was going to be my next point, and let me take that point across to Mr. Fabian. Now, of course, Dr. Rajan Kumar was speaking about the fact that China will, perhaps support Pakistan. Pakistan is also gaining support from OIC countries, Turkey, Iran as well. But India is gaining support from all, the big superpowers. So whether you talk about, Britain, you talk about United States, Italy, France, all of them have backed India. And today's statement from the Kremlin stating that India-Russia relations are not subject to external influence and they continue to develop dynamically in all areas. How critical is that? And does this put to rest all concerns with respect to its unconditional no-holds-barred support to India?
Thank you. You have formulated it very well. Now, we have to make a distinction between diplomatic support through public statements and what sort of support we can expect in case there is war. The two are different. Now, my view, and I shall be glad to be proved wrong, if there is a war, India's military superiority will tell in the first few days, and soon there will come a time when the major powers, namely Washington, Moscow, and Beijing, will ask both the parties to agree to a ceasefire and start talking. In other words, these major powers would not like to see Pakistan very badly defeated or India to go on conquering territory. So that is point number one. Now, you mentioned about Russia. Yes, there was a very important conversation between Prime Minister Modi and President Putin. But just about 5 hours ago, Peskov, he is a Kremlin spokesperson, he said that for Russia, relations with New Delhi and Islamabad, both are important. So we have to sort of read between the lines, and we should realize that there will not be any proper military support for India if there is a war. And coming to China, well, I think we should go back to Chanakya, who said that at least one among your neighbors will treat you as a natural enemy.
Right.
And in the case of India, we have two of the neighbors who treat us as natural enemy, and there is a deep nexus between them.
Right, and we're completely out of time, gentlemen. But let me ask one quick question to retired Lieutenant General V.K. Chaturvedi. Now, these MHA guidelines that have been issued, or the talks of probably states getting involved now for these drills and measures, are these enough as of today? And are Indian civilians prepared in case of a war? Because that is the most crucial point.
This is part of the preparation. This is part of the basically making the civilians aware of these things, and that is why these are being done. On 7th, it has been done even in 71. It is normal drill, civil defense. There used to be a proper, one of the charter of the district magistrate used to be on these lines. It was even talked about in the schools and colleges. This is part of that. As far as I just take a little minute that India will definitely not start the war with the aim of seeking some territory. However, if a war comes up, there will be no one supporting physically even Pakistan or even India. We have to fight our own war. We may get intelligence, we may get some equipment. That is all. But as far as the fighting part is concerned, we will have to do it ourselves. Even China, there may be any amount of closeness with Pakistan, but they will not send even one troop to Pakistan. Same, of course, Russia is a dear friend of India. I do not think that they will support Pakistan. What Mr. Putin today called up our Prime Minister just to clarify what Khwaja Sahab, their defense minister, yesterday made a statement. Just to clarify on that we do not stand with Pakistan. That is what it is.
Absolutely. And they do not stand with Pakistan, and we do hope that there is no further escalation so far as a war-like scenario is concerned. Well, we'll have to wait and see how that story pans out, but hectic developments happening right here in the national capital, of course, globally as well. We'll be tracking all the updates that come in from UNSC's closed consultations that are set to take place at 1:30 a.m. India time. Well, on that note, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening on this very crucial story. And ladies and gentlemen, it's time's up from us right here on India Tonight. Thank you very much for staying with us.